Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're decoding a massive transformation happening literally right now in the K-12 education system. If you're a parent, a teacher, or a student, the revised Department of Education assessment guidelines are going to fundamentally shift what happens inside the classroom and, well, exactly what you see on that report card. We're talking about a total overhaul of how we measure learning, shifting completely away from that intense, high-stakes pressure and moving towards something that's just a lot more supportive.
Okay, let's dive into this. For decades, we've kind of treated the final grade like it's the ultimate finish line, right? You take a test, you get a number, you move on. But look at this direct quote from the new policy. The system is totally challenging that traditional view. The goal of assessment is no longer just chasing a final number to stick on a permanent record. It's to provide meaningful feedback and promote continuous growth. It's all about making sure the way we test students perfectly aligns with their specific developmental stage.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll be looking at 1. The core of assessment, 2. Formative and summative assessment, 3. A new grading era, 4. Modern support and AI, and finally, 5. Rethinking awards and recognition. Don't worry, we're going to untangle exactly what all these changes mean for daily learning and student well-being.
All right, jumping right into Section 1, the core of assessment, guiding principles. The big guiding principle here is that testing just shouldn't be a random, high-stress event that drops out of the sky. Instead, teachers are using the ESRU cycle. This is a framework for daily formative assessment. And this brilliantly illustrates how formative assessment is now a natural, continuous engine embedded right into daily lessons, rather than some separate, panic-inducing test day.
Let's break down that acronym, especially for the educators tuning in today. The cycle stands for the teacher elicits a response, the student responds, the teacher recognizes that response, and, most importantly, the teacher uses it. This means the results from these quick daily checks tell teachers exactly what they need to teach next, how to teach it, and who needs a little extra help right in that moment. It allows you to adjust your instruction on the fly based entirely on how the students are responding.
Moving on to Section 2, Formative and Summative Assessment, Measuring Progress.
So while formative assessment is all about that daily practice, we still obviously need to evaluate student achievement at defined checkpoints, like the end of a term. This is our summative assessment. The guidelines lay out 3 distinct ways this achievement is measured. First, written and oral works, think essays and presentations. Second, product and performance tasks, where students actually apply what they've learned to projects. And third, summative tests and term examinations. But here's the absolutely critical part to avoid testing fatigue. The DepEd has placed strict limits. There can only be a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 performance tasks per term. And for summative tests, they're only going to be administered twice in a term. That's it, one covering the first 15 instructional days and the second covering the next 15.
Now, when we look at the weightings across the board, the data shows a really clear trend. Product and performance tasks, marked as PT, consistently hold the most weight. For core subjects like English and math, it's 50%. For MOP-A, music, arts, physical ed, and health, it jumps up to 60%. And for senior high school work immersion, performance tasks account for an incredible 80% of the grade. This is huge. It proves a massive philosophical shift. Actually applying knowledge in real-world contexts is prioritized way above rote memorization.
Okay, getting into Section 3, this is the climax of the explainer, a new grading era beyond the numbers.
All of these daily cycles and new weightings lead up to the most noticeable change for you at home, the actual report cards. We are entering a completely new grading era. For Key Stage 1, which is kindergarten through grade 3, numerical grading is gone entirely, just gone. It drops numbers in favor of descriptive grading to really focus on foundational support. Meanwhile, for Key Stages 2 through 4, those older students get a hybrid approach. The numerical grades remain, but they are newly paired with qualitative descriptors.
Let's look closely at Key Stage 1 first. Here are the new letter grades for grades 1 to 3. A is advancing, B is benchmarking, C is connecting, D is developing, and E is emerging. By taking away the harshness of a failing number, this system replaces all that numerical stress with clear, supportive milestones of emerging proficiency. So if a young student is at an E, it simply means they are beginning to demonstrate skills and need ongoing support. It's a developmental approach, not a punitive one.
But what about the older kids? We'll keep this number in mind, 60. For Key Stages 2 to 4, numerical grading does stay. But for the school year 2026 to 2027, an adjusted transmutation table is being used. Under this table, 60 is the new default minimum grade that will actually show up on a report card. Basically, this specific number is functioning as a temporary stepping stone because the very next year, the system will fully transition to a zero-based grading system where grades reflect exactly what a student earned, no baseline curving, no artificial minimums.
So the crucial point is this. The old way of a numerical grade standing entirely on its own, that's over. In the new way, for older learners, those numbers are tied to specific descriptors and, most importantly, mandatory instructional responses. The grade isn't just a label anymore. It literally tells the teacher exactly what action they have to take next.
Let me show you exactly what I mean here. If a student receives an emerging grade, which translates to a 0 to 64, the official instructional response requires the teacher to implement structured and sustained intervention programs. Just think about the relief that brings to parents. A low score no longer means your child simply failed and is just left to struggle. It guarantees immediate, intensive, and structured support from the school.
And you know what? It works on the other end of the spectrum too. If a student is advancing with a 90 to 100, they aren't just left to coast at the back of the class because they already know the material. The required instructional response is to provide enrichment opportunities and encourage leadership or peer mentoring, so high achievers are actively going to be challenged further.
All right, Section 4, Modern Support and AI, Navigating the New Classroom.
To actually navigate these exact interventions and handle all the technology in a modern classroom, the guidelines are crystal clear. Learners are to receive timely intervention and remediation. Support happens now. Students and teachers are not going to wait for the end of the school year for remediation to happen. So parents, you can be totally reassured that students won't be left behind all year just to be dumped into summer classes to catch up.
And when it comes to technology, because we can't ignore it, right? The guidelines clearly delineate the boundaries for educators using artificial intelligence. Teachers are completely permitted to use AI to design and analyze assessments. However, to ensure total authenticity, teachers are strictly restricted from using AI for the creation of the assessment itself. The DepEd is drawing a very firm line here to protect the integrity of how we actually measure learning.
And that brings us to our final section, number 5, Rethinking Awards and Recognition, Reducing Toxic Competition.
Because honestly, if we're fundamentally changing how we grade, we also have to change how we reward. Notice how awards are being totally recalibrated to drive a massive cultural shift away from aggressive student ranking. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that for Key Stage 1, absolutely no academic rewards will be conferred. None. The policy explicitly states this is to allow young learners to avoid early competition and labeling. Let them just learn to love learning, right? And for Key Stages 2 to 4, awards will still exist based on general averages, but the awardees will be listed purely alphabetically. No more agonizing over who is rank 1 versus rank 2. It promotes fairness and actively minimizes toxic competition among peers.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. We are looking at a system that is systematically removing the anxiety of decimals, the stress of rankings, and the finality of a failing grade. And it's replacing it with continuous feedback, real-world performance tasks, and immediate support. So when we stop focusing purely on numbers and aggressive rankings, how much further can our students actually grow? I really hope this leaves you as eager and hopeful as I am to see these holistic policy changes come to life in the classroom. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.